A former casino floor manager just told me something that'll change how you play slots forever. There are machines sitting on every casino floor that actually give players better odds, but casinos intentionally hide them. Here are 9 slot machines they never. Machine number 1, Wheel of Fortune Quarter. Classic. I'm talking about the original 1996 IGT3 reel version, and yes, it still exists in some casinos if you know where to look. According to Gaming Commission public records, this machine has an RTP between 94 and 96%. Now, you might be wondering why you've never seen casino hosts recommending this game, and there's a very specific reason for that. A former employee named Marcus, who worked on the floor of a major Las Vegas property for 7 years, told me they were explicitly instructed to never mention this particular machine during player recommendations. He said the directive came straight from slot operations management. These machines are deliberately tucked into corners, often positioned near bathrooms or in awkward alcoves away from main walkways. But the programming is beautifully simple. Just straightforward 3 real mechanical odds with no complex bonus manipulation or hidden triggers. For casinos, that's actually a problem. The lower hold percentage means significantly less revenue per square foot of floor space, and every square foot matters when you're running a multi-million-dollar operation. Marcus explained that newer games in premium positions can generate 3 to 4 times the daily revenue of these classic machines, which is exactly why management wants them buried. And this is just the beginning. Machine number 2, Jacks or Better Video Poker, specifically the full-pay 9 to 6 version. Now, technically this isn't a slot machine, but it sits right there on slot floors alongside everything else, so players treat it the same way. Here's what makes this remarkable. With perfect strategy, this game offers a 99.54% RTP, and that number is verifiable through pure mathematical analysis of the pay table. Casinos have been systematically phasing these out for years, quietly replacing them with 8/5 or 6/5 versions that look almost identical to casual players. There's a story about a woman named Linda who figured this out early. She learned perfect strategy, found a 9 to 6 machine at her local casino, and made between $40 and $60 daily for years. Not massive wins, just consistent methodical returns based on mathematics. Then one Tuesday afternoon, she arrived to find her machine replaced with an 8/5 version. The pay table difference is crucial. That 9/6 designation means 9 coins for a full house and 6 coins for a flush. When casinos downgrade to 8/5 or 7/5, they're shaving percentage points off your return, but the machines look virtually identical. When these full-pay versions still exist, they're positioned in the most isolated, low-traffic areas imaginable with poor signage and zero promotional attention. Casinos prefer pure chance games because they eliminate the skill variable entirely. But if you think video poker offers good odds, wait until you hear about machine number 3. Machine number 3, Double Diamond, the classic version from the 1990s. This is a 3-reel slot that represents everything modern casino design has moved away from, and that's precisely why it's so valuable to understand. Based on PAR sheet leaks that surfaced through various Gaming Commission filings over the years, this machine delivers an RTP between 92 and 95%, depending on denomination. The gameplay is almost brutally simple, which means players can recognize the actual odds much faster than they can on modern games with cascading reels and multi-level bonus triggers. A former slot director named James, who spent 15 years with a major regional casino operator, revealed something fascinating during a conversation last year. He described a corporate directive that came down around 2015 to systematically replace games like Double Diamond with what the industry calls participation games. These are machines where the manufacturer takes a percentage of revenue in addition to the initial purchase cost. James explained that this fundamental shift changed everything about floor composition. The old mechanical games were paid for, owned outright, and generated pure profit minus maintenance. These newer participation agreements mean casinos are incentivized to push higher revenue games just to cover manufacturer fees. When Double Diamond machines still exist, they're positioned in what floor managers call dead zones, areas near exits, or in alcoves where foot traffic essentially disappears. The pay table is completely transparent, but you can look at it and understand exactly what you're dealing with. There are no hidden bonus triggers, no complex mathematical models buried in secondary screens. James mentioned something that really stuck with me. He said that during one quarterly operations meeting, the minutes specifically referenced removing legacy low-hold games. Those minutes became public through a Nevada Gaming Control Board filing related to an unrelated compliance matter. The language was clear. Lower-performing games in premium positions needed replacement. And speaking of machines with transparent math, here's where things get even more interesting. Machine number 4, Bonus Poker Deluxe, another video poker variant that's even rarer than 9-6 jacks or better. This game delivers a 99.64% RTP with optimal play, and again, that's mathematically verifiable by anyone willing to analyze the pay structure. A casino host named Carol, who worked the high-limit area of a strip property for nearly a decade, told me something that reveals the entire psychology. She said management explicitly instructed hosts to never recommend video poker to high-value players. The reason gets to the heart of how casinos actually think about their floor. Bonus Poker Deluxe pays uniformly for 4-of-a-kind hands, 80 coins regardless of which rank you hit. That eliminates the volatility that casinos have come to rely on as a retention mechanism. But modern casino strategy depends on volatility because it creates what they call action. The emotional peaks and valleys keep players engaged far longer than steady, predictable returns ever could. When you find Bonus Poker Deluxe, it's almost always in what industry people call video poker graveyards, sections with the oldest, least maintained machines. And here's the manipulation that most players never notice. Newer video poker machines have deliberately confusing pay tables with non-standard payouts that make optimal strategy nearly impossible to apply without serious study. Before we continue to machine number 5, which actually has a 98% RTP, I'd really appreciate if you'd subscribe and let me know in the comments. Have you ever found one of these machines in your local casino? Well, because what I'm about to reveal next is something casino marketing departments specifically avoid advertising. Machine number 5, Blazing Sevens, specifically the classic red, white, and blue version that IGT produced in the early 2000s. This three-reel game has something genuinely unusual going on with its return structure, and it's documented right there in gaming commission submissions that are publicly accessible if you know where to look. The RTP ranges from 93 to 98% depending on your bet level, and here's the critical detail that most players miss entirely. Higher bets correlate directly with higher RTP on this specific machine. That's not speculation. That's in the technical documentation submitted for regulatory approval. A former slot technician named Michael described something that happened during virtually every floor redesign he witnessed over his 12-year career. Blazing 7S machines were always first on the removal list, even when player tracking data showed they were genuinely popular with regulars. He walked me through the process. Corporate would send floor layout consultants who'd analyze revenue per unit, and these simple three-reel games just couldn't compete with the numbers generated by modern multi-denomination video slots in the same footprint. The progressive jackpots on Blazing Sevens reset at reasonable levels. There's no extended drought programming that starves the bonus triggers for hundreds of spins. You can actually calculate rough odds just by studying the pay table for 15 minutes. And that transparency is exactly what modern slot design has spent 20 years engineering away from. Michael told me about a woman named Ruth, who played the same Blazing Sevens machine for 8 years at a regional property in Mississippi. She'd arrive every Thursday afternoon, play for exactly 2 hours, and leave. One Thursday, she walked in to find her machine gone, replaced with a Lightning Link game that has an RTP between 85 and 88% according to most analysis. Ruth asked a floor attendant what happened, and the response was simply that they were updating the floor selection. But here's where it gets really interesting. Machine number 6, White Ice, an IGT5 reel game that represents the opposite of everything modern slots have become. This is a low volatility machine with consistent small wins, and the RTP sits between 94 and 96% based on technical specifications that IGT submitted to gaming commissions for approval. A former casino analyst named David spent 3 years studying floor performance metrics for a consulting firm that worked with major operators. He explained that games like White Ice were internally labeled as grinders, which wasn't meant as a compliment. These machines allowed players to sit for hours on relatively small bankrolls because the hit frequency was approximately 1 in 8 spins. Compare that to modern games designed with hit frequencies of 1 in 30 to 1 in 50 spins, and when you see a completely different philosophy. David described how modern slot design strategy explicitly emphasizes what the industry calls excitement, which is really just a professional term for volatility. High volatility creates dramatic emotional peaks and valleys. You'll lose steadily for extended periods, then hit a bonus that pays 50 or 80 times your bet, and that psychological cycle increases what internal reports call time on device. White Ice doesn't do that. It pays smaller amounts more frequently, and players notice they're losing slower. For casino operations, that's actually a significant problem. Internal reports that David referenced, some of which were later cited in industry publications, it demonstrated that low volatility games generate 40 to 60% less revenue per square foot than high volatility alternatives. When White Ice machines still exist, they've been systematically removed from any premium floor position and replaced with licensed theme games that cost more to operate but generate substantially higher hold percentages. And if you think casinos hide these 6 machines, wait until you hear about the final 3. Machine number 7. Ultimate X Video. Poker, specifically the full-pay versions that combine multiplier mechanics with player-favorable base games. A former casino revenue manager I spoke with described this as the problem machine during internal operations meetings, and once you understand the structure, it becomes immediately clear why that label stuck. The technical mechanics work like this. Any multiplier you earn on your current hand carries forward to the next hand, and when you combine that feature with 9-6, jacks or better or other full-pay variants, you're looking at returns exceeding 99% with proper strategy. But there's another element that made casino management genuinely uncomfortable, something called vulturing. And players would leave multipliers on machines without realizing those multipliers represented actual residual value, and knowledgeable players began systematically checking machines for these abandoned opportunities. Gaming commission filings from Nevada properties include technical documentation showing operators were fully aware this created advantage play vulnerabilities that didn't exist on standard games. There's a story that circulated pretty widely in advantage play communities about a player named Kevin who mapped an entire casino floor each morning before most tourists arrived. He'd methodically check every Ultimate X machine for abandoned multipliers, and he found opportunities worth $40 to $80 in expected value nearly every single day. This wasn't luck or gambling in any traditional sense. No, it was pure mathematical exploitation of other players' mistakes. Kevin did this for 14 months straight before surveillance identified the pattern. A former surveillance operator at that property described exactly how they caught on. They noticed Kevin never played machines without multipliers already present, and he'd move from machine to machine in systematic patterns that didn't match recreational gambling behavior. The casino's response was swift and comprehensive. Within 60 days, every full-pay Ultimate X machine was removed from the floor entirely and replaced with reduced pay table versions that eliminated the mathematical advantage even for perfect play. That the genuinely cruel irony in this whole situation is that casual players who walked away from multipliers were inadvertently funding advantage players like Kevin without ever understanding the math. Kevin later posted on Advantage Play forums, and I'm paraphrasing here, that it was the best year of his gambling life. Even without vulturing opportunities, full-pay Ultimate X versions offered minimal casino edge, which created pressure from corporate oversight. A slot director named Patricia showed me a memo, with identifying details removed, that explicitly referenced Ultimate X in a section about phasing out all 9-6 variants across properties in a regional chain. The industry trend became unmistakable. Ultimate X still exists on floors today, but almost exclusively with reduced pay tables. There's either 8/5 or 7/5 jacks or better that fundamentally change the mathematics. Here's where the deception becomes particularly calculated. Casinos continue promoting Ultimate X in their gaming guides and floor directories without ever specifying which pay table version they're actually offering. The base game on a 9.6 variant pays 99.17%, and with optimal multiplier strategy, that climbs to 99.81%, according to analysis by professional gaming mathematicians. When these full-pay versions existed, they never appeared in marketing materials, and Players Club promotions would specifically exclude video poker from bonus point multiplier events while including slots. And now we're getting to the final two machines on this list. These next ones are so player-friendly that one former casino executive told me directly, which we don't just avoid promoting them, we actively try to make them uncomfortable to play. Here's what he meant by that. Machine number 8. Odyssey slots. IGT's 2016 attempt to introduce genuine skill-based elements into slot machine design. And the story of why this machine disappeared reveals everything about what casinos actually want from their gaming floors. The RTP on Odyssey ranged from 90 to 98%, depending on actual player skill level, and that variability is documented right there in the gaming approvals submitted to regulators in Nevada and New Jersey. A former product manager at IGT described the internal conflict that defined this machine's entire development cycle. The design team wanted to create something that gave players real agency, genuine control over outcomes through skill expression, while casino operators wanted absolute mathematical certainty about hold percentages. Those two objectives were fundamentally incompatible. Yet the bonus rounds incorporated legitimate video game mechanics, where player performance directly affected results. Better reaction time, pattern recognition, and decision-making produced measurably better returns, which meant skilled players could theoretically achieve an advantage over the house on specific sessions. For casino operations departments that live and die by predictable statistical models, this created an unacceptable level of uncertainty. A floor manager named Sandra told me something that perfectly captures how casinos approached these machines. She said they deliberately positioned Odyssey units in experimental millennial gaming zones that were intentionally underlit and had explicitly limited cocktail service. These weren't premium positions designed to showcase new technology. They were testing grounds designed with the expectation of failure. Sandra admitted this directly. "We put them where we expected them to fail," she said, because management was deeply uncomfortable with the variable hold percentage and wanted data to justify removal. Most properties pulled their Odyssey machines within 18 to 24 months, despite genuine enthusiasm from the small player base that discovered them. The fundamental issue was philosophical. Casinos have spent decades optimizing around pure chance because it's mathematically predictable across large sample sizes. Introduce skill as a meaningful variable, and suddenly your financial projections carry uncertainty that corporate finance departments simply won't tolerate. Yet the entire skill-based gaming initiative that generated substantial industry press between 2016 and 2018 was essentially abandoned by 2020. But the final machine on this list represents something even more telling about casino priorities. Machine number 9. 100-play video poker in full-pay versions, specifically games where one dealt hand plays simultaneously across 100 separate hands. The RTP exceeds 99.5% on full-pay variants with perfect strategy. But the real story is what happened when players actually won on these machines. A video poker area manager named Thomas described a specific incident that triggered an immediate operational response. A player he called Bill converted $500 into $12,000 in 45 minutes on a 9,600 play machine, and that single session prompted an emergency pay table review across the entire property. Within 30 days, every 100-play machine was downgraded to 8/5 jacks or better, dropping the RTP to 97.3%. The mathematical structure of these games means that skilled play compounds across all those simultaneous hands. Perfect strategy doesn't just give you an edge on one hand, it multiplicatively applies that edge across 100 hands every single round. Casino operations manuals, with excerpts published in gaming industry journals, specifically flag multi-hand video poker as high-risk inventory that requires constant monitoring. When full-pay versions exist anywhere today, there's zero marketing support, zero promotional integration, and positioning in the least desirable floor locations available. A gaming survey conducted across Las Vegas properties in 2022 found that less than 3% of video poker machines currently offer full pay tables of any kind. This represents the ultimate intersection of high RTP, genuine skill advantage, and systematic casino suppression. The human cost shows up in players like Bill, who spent years developing expertise in these games, only to watch casinos systematically downgrade the equipment that made that expertise valuable. The pattern across all 9 machines reveals something fundamental about how casino floors actually operate. Every single one of these games shares common characteristics: transparent mathematics, player-friendly return percentages, or skill elements that give knowledgeable players genuine agency. And every single one has been systematically suppressed through poor placement, zero marketing support, or outright removal. A former casino operations director named Robert told me something during a consultation meeting that crystallized the entire philosophy. And he said every square foot of casino floor space needs to generate a minimum threshold of daily revenue, and any game that consistently falls below that number gets replaced during the next floor redesign cycle. That's not conspiracy, that's just business operations. And it's completely legal and frankly understandable from a pure profitability standpoint. But here's where the disconnect becomes genuinely problematic. Casino marketing departments spend millions promoting messages about winning big and hitting life-changing jackpots, while simultaneously and deliberately removing the machines that offer players the best mathematical chance of success. The evidence isn't hidden or speculative. Gaming Commission filings, PAR sheet leaks, internal memos that surface through regulatory proceedings, and in testimony from dozens of former employees all point to identical suppression patterns across different properties, different operators, and different jurisdictions. The philosophical truth that makes this so important to understand is that casinos have systematically moved away from transparency toward complexity and volatility. Modern slot design prioritizes what gets called player engagement, which really means emotional manipulation through dramatic win-loss cycles that keep people playing longer regardless of mathematical expectation. If you want to make informed decisions, you need to understand that RTP percentages and pay table information are public record. Gaming commissions require mathematical disclosure for regulatory approval, which means the actual odds are accessible if you know where to look. Former employees I've spoken with consistently expressed the same sentiment. They said they genuinely respected players who took time to understand the mathematics, because those players approached gambling as informed entertainment rather than confused hope. The irony is that educated players naturally gravitated toward exactly the games casino management wanted to hide. The industry trajectory should concern anyone who plays these games. Server-based gaming systems now allow real-time RTP adjustments within legally permitted parameters. Participation agreements with manufacturers incentivize lower returns because operators need higher revenue just to cover licensing fees. Branded content deals for properties like Game of Thrones or Friends come with costs that directly reduce the percentage available to return to players. A former game designer named Michelle told me her team was explicitly instructed to design for entertainment experience, which translated directly to volatility and visual excitement rather than player value. The games on this list represent a disappearing philosophy, and they're becoming progressively rarer every single quarter. So next time you walk a casino floor, look for these 9 machines if they still exist. Let me know in the comments if you found any of them at your local property, and make sure to subscribe because next week I'm revealing the specific pay table symbols that expose bad video poker machines instantly.